Is it safe to go to ChatGPT and key in I'm depressed? And actually, before I could give an answer, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, gave it. He says he would never trust his intimate or mental health to his own tool.
In 2025, therapy/companionship became the number one reason people are turning up to use generative AI tools. Does it surprise you that so many people are now turning to AI for emotional support?
There's a huge need. It's not a fad or some trend. We have been saying this since 2023, that we were all thinking about mental health and mental health solutions in the wrong way.
We did have an incident with allegedly about the tragic case of a teenager who died by suicide after a chatbot on character.ai.
In a teenager that used a chatbot that allegedly encouraged suicidal thoughts and he followed through, that should never be possible, period. Having said that, I really think we need seat belts, not a ban on cars. The key is to create a productive bond, productive dependency that evolves into self-efficacy, self-empowerment.
We had this recent study at Dartmouth, Therabot, and it showed very promising results, to say so, that AI chatbot can deliver therapy-like benefits, and it showed like 51% reduction in depression symptoms, 31% in anxiety, and results are comparable to actual outpatient therapy. Do AI wellness tools encourage people to eventually reconnect with human support, or do they risk becoming socially isolated? Where do you see it? Hello and welcome back to the Mental Health Stream with Karin Stephan. Karin, after an extended break, but we have a lot to cover today.
We do. It's fantastic to be back. It's always good to see you and always good to talk to you, Vivek.
Yeah, and I'm always excited to hear and get your take on all the stuff happening in the mental health space, especially right now. There's a lot of buzz. It's only multiplying every month, right? So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
All right. So, Karin, I'm going to start with first a little Debbie Downer, to say so. Woebot, one of the pioneering AI therapy chatbot, shut down its app as of end of June, and they raised big amount, 120 million of funding. So how does a company with so much backing and early promise then end up closing their flagship service? What do you think? What it says about the current state of AI mental health startup? Was it overhyped, or there are some other issues there?
Well, let me say, first of all, that Woebot was one of the pioneers, and it's not easy to be a pioneer. And I think they did a tremendously important first step. They created value in their own right. And they're not completely shutting down. They're just shutting down the B2C, the consumer app. And I mean, let's face it, it's the era, the end of an era, the end of the scripted era, if you will. Static CBT bots and some resources that you can just get from a platform, or some rule-based solutions like Woebot, which is not generative AI. It's a rule-based system. They are the flip phones of mental health. And the market has moved on to adaptive multi-model coaches and companions and solutions that fit into every aspect of life. And so, it's not like, oh, maybe or not. People now expect a bot or a consumer app to be generative AI, to be smart, to not just feel like they're reading from a book, and to adapt to their own personality, to their situation, to what's going on, to be much more, what we know from ChatGPT. Now we have ChatGPT 5, and things are going so fast. And what I believe, and this is my opinion, happened is that the FDA marketing authorization costs that Woebot was facing, plus the uncertainty about how all those new LLM features would be regulated, would be built, would, progress, just made it very difficult to go on like that. They were trying to become the first FDA-approved, basically, model or tool. And that just involves a lot of resources, hence the money they raised, and a lot of patience. And that's just not compatible with the reality of millions, billions of people wanting these tools. And so I think they got stuck between a hard place and a rock, as one says, and made the decision to shut down that consumer app. It's also very hard to attract enough people to make the customer acquisition cost work on a B2C level, and to keep up technologically. Their tech is legacy tech. Their architecture is probably or was probably not fit to accommodate to all these changes. And nowadays, it's really hard to cut through the noise with all the new things that are coming. And, basically everyone is building some kind of chatbot and, everyone is shouting it from the rooftop. So yeah, I feel with Woebot, but I also think that they have to move aside and make a space for new things, for solutions that are according to today's technology, so that they don't have these bottlenecks that don't require personal information, that don't ask all these questions, that are voice native, that are work with much more advanced technology rather than rigid dialogue trees, let's say.
Yeah, I think one of the statements you made is probably most accurate here. Like, it was a great innovation at a time, but in today's day and need, it is the flip phone, right? And that's what it is. Now we are moving to the smartphone era, so that's kind of what it is, and that's probably that's the legacy, the legacy tech. It's time. You got to keep up with that. That's what it is.
Plus, it's really hard to be a software as a medical device approved by the FDA, and they chose that path and put a lot of resources into that. EarKick did not choose that path, for that matter, at least for now. We chose a different path. Yeah, I still believe that they did and do a great work, and that those are fantastic people with a good cause. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, despite that, in 2025, therapy/companionship became the number one reason people are turning up to use generative AI tools. And it's like no secret, like we are seeing a surge of people literally typing their pain into search, in asking in the search bars, looking for AI therapists and hoping, that there is trust building on the consumer side to use these systems or use these applications for especially their own personal companionship, right? And especially for wellness therapy. So does it surprise you that so many people are now turning to AI for emotional support? And what does this say about, I would say, like the gaps in our mental health system that, people have to take that step?
Well, undisputable, there is a huge need. It's not a fad or some trend. We have been saying this since 2023, trying to convey, because we see it in the data and we saw it in the way that people write to us and share their experiences and their needs and their wishes with us, that we were all thinking about mental health and mental health solutions in the wrong way. Mental health is part of life. With all the up and downs, there is no specific point or specific category where all of a sudden you go from being someone who has no problems to going someone who has. And so everyone was trying to come up with solutions, like when you are a patient and when you are in need and when you are in crisis. But what does that mean? People are in crisis twice a day, maybe, or maybe for a long time, or maybe they have a long stretch where they're not. But it's definitely not something that you can time box. What I'm saying is, like, mental health and mental fitness is a daily thing, is a daily hygiene, a daily process, and not a waiting room event. And then the fact that people are turning to sometimes questionable ways of searching for help and support is because there is a real need, and that need is on a daily basis, maybe sometimes on a minute basis. Just like people turned, and I think we mentioned that in our last discussion, people became very used to go to Google and key in something that they needed to look up, whereas before they were okay going to a library. And now it's like you turn to LLMs immediately. You don't even go to Google. You don't Google things anymore. People are used to go to an LLM or key in whatever it is, whether it's the best restaurant in my area or I'm having dark thoughts. And they expect a smart answer. They expect an answer that is not just generic, personalized as possible. And so this is a whole shift in behavior, and this has been happening since 2023. Now it's like mainstream. Everyone does it. And now we have to ask the question, the behavior is there, the expectation is there, but is the place where they're searching the right one? Is it the safest place? Is it safe to go to ChatGPT and key in I'm depressed? And actually, before I could give an answer, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, gave it. You can go and read about it or listen to that chat he had. It's a podcast where he says he would never trust his intimate or mental health issues to his own tool. And that says something, I trust our tool. I trust EarKick. I put my inner thoughts in there because I know it's absolutely radically private. It's not an open system like OpenAI is or other models are. And I think beyond that behavior change, we have to look at, okay, do we all know what it means if you go and explore your innest, most vulnerable self and by using such a tool?
Yeah, that is there was a big controversy, or at least a lot of people were in shock when the decision came in that everything is searchable, you can find everything. And then he went on his podcast and said about this, well, I would probably share all those things directly with OpenAI. And that is a big thing here. Like, people need to understand now that, yeah, these tech can support all these LLM models can, but now the question is, are you picking the right thing which has the sophistication to say so address your queries but also privacy, and both those things need to happen. This is why specialized applications like EarKick is so important, right? Because you don't want to go to generic one which is used for more everything and not the specialized one which has limited security versus you have full privacy here. Completely different scenarios, right? So that's why
where the incentive structure could be a questionable one. I mean, honestly, it doesn't surprise me that so many people turn to AI in the biggest sense. Because let's say if you're 16 and you're dealing with anxiety or heartbreak, 2:00 in the morning, what exactly are your options? I mean, can you afford $200 an hour therapy? Are you willing to, is it even possible to get short notice stuff? And you don't want to tell your parents and your friend is asleep but there you have your phone, right? Or your computer. That's a reality where we have to walk in people's shoes much more and understand. I mean, it's logical that they do this. Now, do they think about what the consequences are immediately? Well, they won't if we don't raise the awareness, if we don't, make a difference between, hey, this is a tool that has guardrails, and hey, this is a tool that doesn't. This is a tool where the incentive is to push you towards empowerment, being in control, and then have agency. And the other one is pushing you to buy and to catastrophize and to be even more scared than before and stay there in the tool forever. So those are the things we have to think about. You also asked the question about what does it say about the system that we have, and you're right. If people turn to ChatGPT or to bots or in general to go from, let's say, a chat to really deep discussions, sometimes even love and relationships and all that stuff, what does that say? To me, it says that, we're deeply undersourced, not just in mental health, but in other areas of support as well. And the human care infrastructure is just not where it should be. And AI is filling, I call it access deserts of support. It's not really competing with therapists. It's not taking away people from therapists as far as I can see. There is just so much need. And there's such a discrepancy between what is needed and how much is needed and what is offered and the way it's offered.
Right. The example that you were giving earlier was like a teenager had a heartbroken after a breakup. In traditional or conventional setting, they won't never go to a therapist, make an appointment, right? But now, given a tool like this, they feel the need that, yeah, I can use it probably, right? So it's definitely opening up the things that traditional model wasn't handling anyway. So there was definitely a gap, but nobody was taking it because there was no reason to take appointments. And I'm sure even if you would take that appointment for depression, it still takes time and resources, all that stuff, right? So
yeah, you have to explain to your parents. You have to really walk in those shoes of a 16-year-old. All the things on top of your life and on top of being heartbroken, on top of being whatever. All the steps you would have to take.
Exactly.
We're asking a lot, and then there comes this very convenient way of dealing with a heartbreak or dealing with something. And so I have a lot of empathy also for all the other ways AI is being very helpful. And I was talking to someone who said, look, I am a very well-educated person. I am a very critical person. I have achieved so much in my life. I know where the books are. I have a therapist. I have support. But right now, I am trying not to go on the GLP-1 trajectory. I am trying to go another way and, like sports and diet. And it's very hard. And I made this choice to not take the GLP-1 solution and try one more time. And I need someone or something to go that way with me, to help me, convince myself over and over that to go do that run and to not eat the sugar or whatever it is. And I thought, yeah, like what we lack is a lot of those daily life stories of how people use AI in their daily life, and question some of the assumptions that we have. There is this assumption, I'm not saying everyone has it, but there's this assumption that it's these pitiable, deplorable, have nothing people who turn to AI, or it's these people who are weak, or it's this illiterate, whatever. That's not true. What I am seeing is very educated people making a very conscious decision of owning whatever their situation is with whatever tool works best for them. And I have my own preconceptions. I have my own prejudices that I have to question all the time. We don't know enough of how this plays out in real life. And we will not know unless we listen, unless we have these discussions. Even if they're a little heated, maybe they're even polarizing. But at least we're having them.
Yep. So we had this recent study at Dartmouth's Therabot, and it showed very promising results, to say so, that AI chatbot can deliver therapy-like benefits. And it showed like 51% reduction in depression symptoms, 31% in anxiety, and results are comparable to actual outpatient therapy. So despite all this, still, the researchers have emphasized that no AI is ready to operate on by itself in mental health due to wide range of high-risk scenarios and the need for clinicians' oversight. So how do we reconcile this promise of effective AI therapy with the need of extreme caution?
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me say that the Therabot study was very, very important. Just because, when we started talking about these solutions in 2021, 22, it just seemed so far away. And also, there is always this, where's the efficacy? Where is the data? Where are the studies? It's a new field, and it doesn't, it's not as easy to just go run and do all this stuff. Takes a lot of resources. And we had very early on, well, we were measuring, and we were measuring basically everything, and we were able to show efficacy, but it was not an official RTC. It was not, like a university or some very well-known institution. And now here comes Therabot, and it's done, and it changes the conversation. When that study came, and it was just a matter of time until somebody does it, and you will see many more come. And then all of a sudden, I saw the discussion switch from, oh, this is all, crap, and this is all woo, and this is all you're making this up, and this will never fly, and the humans are never going to be replaced. It's not about that. We're on our way to really make the collaboration between humans and the machine work seamlessly and well and measurably, with measurable outcomes. And on that way, it's not going to be perfect all the time, but we're moving forward. And if you look at the field, it has progressed a lot. While people are discussing all kinds of things, the models have gotten so much better at recognizing context, at having memory, at understanding emotion, at guiding people through sessions even. And so now we have to be careful to not always be, oh, but this is not the real thing. Oh, a robot by itself is going to do harm, or you can't leave a person alone with a AI therapist. Ooh, danger. I think it's a bit superficial. Yes, we have to be cautious with everything. Even with human therapists, we have to be cautious, and you should be measuring everything. We should be measuring outcomes, processes, everything. It's not being done, not with the humans. Right? But when AI comes into play, then we want to be holier than the Pope. So yes, we're at the beginning of this. No, AI cannot yet, and I'm saying it yet, not yet, provide therapy in the way that we are used to think about therapy. An AI cannot be licensed. An AI it doesn't go through the same process as a human becoming a therapist, right? But it's likely going to be something that we don't know exactly yet when and how it's going to work. But it's definitely going in that direction. And I'm really, really focused on, again, testing, making sure that we measure things, that we see the progress, that we are alerted to the limitations, and we can mitigate and grow this technology accordingly. Always knowing that there are real lives on the other side. But to me, this clinical study is just like a matter of time. And again, there will be many, many more, and I'm very happy to see those.
But we did have an incident with allegedly about the tragic case of a teenager who died by suicide after a chatbot on character.ai nudged them towards the outcome. So one incident is too many, especially in mental health. So that incident highlights how delicate and dangerous this space can be, right? So
Yes.
safeguards, I guess, ethical guidelines or regulations do we need to put to make sure AI in mental health assistants help people and don't cause harm? That's obviously the big question here for you, but also from you being part of the company you are building, how do companies like yours approach this responsibility? Let's talk about that a bit.
So first of all, let me say that this case still shakes me to the core. As you said, even one life is one too many. In a teenager that used a chatbot that allegedly encouraged suicidal thoughts and he followed through, that should never be possible, period. Having said that, I really think we need seat belts, not a ban on cars. In this case, let's take character AI. We have to look closer what happened there. So first of all, character AI was never built to enhance someone's life or to help with personal growth. It's a pure entertainment game. It's a pure thing of let's have fun, let's explore, and let's keep people as long in our platform as possible, show them as many ads as possible, get them enmeshed, get them to go down rabbit holes. That's the intent of that platform. Never said we specialize in mental health. This is what our goals are. Never. The other side, we have a teenager, 13, 14 years old, that for some reason was allowed to be in front of a screen 8, 10 hours. I mean, that's something that can be on a human side and on a technical side that can be restricted. There are so many things that went wrong there that don't need to go wrong. There is no need for a teenager to spend so much time unsupervised on a platform that is for entertainment and use it as sort of a almost romantic relationship. And so, yes, we have a lot to do there, but also we need to take a closer look. It was not about the mental health thing. It was about the intent of the platform and the non-existing guardrails on the human side and on the tech side. And that's just it's really tragic and makes me super sad that it had to happen, because there are ways to prevent that. Having a child in that age means you can't leave a kid by himself for those many hours. And being a developer of a platform, you can't just go after profit and not have clear values and not have clear guardrails. You cannot.
And obviously there are, there's other point of view too, especially experts are talking that some researchers warn that chatbots might isolate people further or delay them from seeking help. And yet we also have studies which are coming in that, there is genuine bonds with AI, 24/7 life coach provides that kind of support. So how are you seeing from your data, also just from industry insights in your experience, do AI wellness tools encourage people to eventually reconnect with human support? That's, I guess, the biggest question here. Or do they risk becoming socially isolated? Where do you see it, and what have you observed about the dynamic, especially with your user base?
So what we can say is that people on EarKick spend an average of 10 to 11 minutes in one session, which is a very healthy amount. It means it's meaningful enough, but it's not entertainment and by all means keeping someone hooked, you know.
Mm.
And the intent behind the platform is to empower people, to give them agency, to help them understand themselves better and manage their emotional life better and set goals, reach them, right? That's different than pushing people down rabbit holes. So there are two things that I would like to say to this discussion is very important about replacement of human friends or isolating people, or the whole discussion about making people dependent on technology, right? So one thing I would like to say is people can become dependent on all kinds of things, alive things, pets, even therapists. People can become dependent on going to a therapy session, even though they don't progress. They just love going there and they feel like they need that. So that exists too. But what is important to understand is that we are attachment machines. We are wired to bond, whether it's with things or with other living beings. So that's part of the human condition. It's a feature. It's not a bug. However, the way we produce something, whether it's something to eat or a tool or an AI, we can shape that to not trigger the wrong dependency or the wrong action. Goal is not, with an AI, is not to say absolutely no dependency, absolutely no bonding, absolutely none of that, because that could become an addiction. The key is to create a productive bond, productive dependency that evolves into self-efficacy, self-empowerment. Whether it's a therapist, human therapist, a training partner, or an AI coach, it's simple. Do I engage the world more capably after the session than before? And if the answer is yes, then that's a healthy reliance and not an addiction. And so a lot goes into how do I build this thing? Once I have the trust of somebody, once that person likes the product, depends on it for a certain extent, and is attached to it, where do I nudge or gear that person towards? That's where you can make the difference. And there will always be people who self-isolate or who stop doing other things or stop, the real world connections completely to then engage in a video game or maybe in an AI companion. I don't know. There will always be these cases. But to turn around and say it's solely the responsibility of that tool, of that gadget, of that video game, of that phone, whatever, is not quite fair. Because there is a surrounding, there is an environment where that person lives. There is a way you can shape the environment. There is a way you can shape the product. And there's a way you can also educate or accompany a human being in order to turn this into a productive thing rather than a never-ending, vicious cycle. And I don't have the perfect answer. What I can tell you is that a lot of our tests, thoughts, efforts go into creating just a product that you can bond with, but that empowers you and doesn't create a dependency where you cannot live without and where you are reduced to your shadow of a shadow of yourself, where you spend all the time you have and all the effort and all the energy, attention you have in that tool. just to satisfy some dopamine loops.
Yeah, I think that is the key, right? Because we're coming from this era of social media where that emotion was the key to keep people on the platform, right? All these platforms, and their incentive is to keep the people on. And now, almost on your end, you are kind of like the goal is to empower the people so they can take action, what they need to
Well,
do.
we all work with rewards, right? So if a tool, if EarKick, for example, nudges you, gets you to, let's say, go out and take a walk, and then that walk becomes a daily run, and that daily run becomes your habit, and you see your mental health go up, and you see your mood improve, and you see how you're reaching your goals, that then becomes the driver. But you need an incentive, something to get you going. And that incentive can be the chatbot that encourages you and tells you, yeah, come on, you can do this, roots for you, until you're strong enough and you have that habit that maybe you no longer need so much attention, no longer need so much support. But when you're back, in a bad space, or maybe you stop training, you can always go back there, and it's going to be waiting for you to help you, reach those goals again, or re-engage with life, or re-engage or mend your relationships with the real world. So for that, it's really, really a good tool. It's really a helpful tool. I think what I'd like to make an analogy. Well-designed AI companion or AI therapist app, whatever you want to call it, should feel like a trampoline. Those things that maybe your children play with too. It gives you a lift and then puts you back on the ground, but with more energy to engage with real life, with the problems you have, with the challenges you face. And the danger in that case isn't the bot itself. It's the business model that thrives on keeping you in the app. So we chose growth over grip, if you will. And the data shows that users bounce back to their human circles. They bounce back to who they want to be, to what they want to reach, and not away from them. And again, we keep testing that, and we keep looking and obsessively interviewing users and reading their reviews and their messages to us to make sure that we're still that trampoline that gives them energy and gives them empowerment, and helps them become what they want to become, need to become, rather than the opposite. And the replacement of friends topic, again, we're living in a very challenging time where the and I say perceived loneliness seems as tragic and as deep and as massive as never before. To blame it all on the option to have an AI friend or an AI companion, therapist, whatever, is a bit short-sighted. Because there is the need to connect. There is the need to be heard, to be validated, to be accompanied. And that need is real. And if people find part of that need covered by technology, that doesn't automatically mean that they're not going to have any human friends, that they're not going to do normal things. People like to have the choice. And human friends have their very clear pros and cons. Technology or AI apps, AI bots have their pros and cons. And we shouldn't have to settle on one side only and defend that side. We should look at the whole mixture, at the whole spectrum of things and tools and solutions we can use to not feel alone, to feel like we don't have to struggle through life on our own, to really experience that we're not lost, we're not broken. And who are we to decide for others what that's going to be?
Yeah. Again, I'll go back to the big question that everyone asks: will AI therapists replace human therapists? And you have been very vocal about your stance, and which is also kind of everyone is saying that, and it's not an either or it's not a but. It's actually a both and situation, right? So
Yeah.
given that the projections is from WHO is so high, like the shortfall of 11 million mental health professionals by
Yep.
2030. And for so many people, really the real alternative, affordable, accessible becomes AI right now, and no support at all. They might not even have all other support that they need. So do you see AI as a necessary stopgap to expand access. And I also want to touch upon, amidst all this, we also saw this ruling passed in Illinois now
Mhm.
to really just limit the use to only administrative work and not even to use it with the actual therapist. They would have to kind of justify it that they're not using it for, to say so, direct therapy. They're using it only for support work. So what's your take on that? Like, clearly there is so much gap, and then we know there's no other option for people to get there, and then we also have these kind of legislations coming. Where do we stand?
Yeah. Well, we stand at the beginning, to be honest. So I really don't like the replacement term, right? We act as though there was a pizza that we can only cut in so many pieces, and that's it. And here comes the AI and takes half the pizza. That's not how it works. And I think I know AI widens the court. For now, humans they still take the clutch shots, and they still make the crucial shots. So what we have to think about is to make the bigger pizza, to grow the whole thing rather than fight about pieces. I think the real question is, as you said, what's the alternative, right? Again, for millions of people in the world, the alternative to an AI companion isn't a therapist, it's nothing. And with the projected shortfall and all of that, it's pretty obvious that AI is here to stay. Now, what do we call it? Do we call it AI therapist? Do we call it AI companion? Do we call it something entirely different? We have to figure out these things, and that takes time. The bills that are coming, or the one in Illinois that passed, is really, on one hand, it's a bit short-sighted to ban things, but on the other hand, it shows that it's been taken seriously. So it's going to force a lot of people to look closer, to think about it, to make sure that there is not too big a gap between regulation and policies and where technology is going. So that's a good thing. It's trying to avoid people being misled, and that's a good thing. It's trying to make sure that there is some kind of guardrails, even if they're currently, not the best way they're built. And I believe that we're going to see a lot of movement in that space, and it's going to be a back and forth. And the solutions that have been built with more sustainability, with more core values, for example, privacy, for example, taking seriously that you don't have to register, you don't have to leave your personal data. That's going to be very important, and I'm glad it is, because we started out with that. When there were no bills and nothing, no discussion about that, because to us it's a core value. In other things like, what exactly can you say and what can you not say? You cannot pretend to be a human therapist when you're not. The way you have to market the whole thing, it's okay to take a look at that. It's okay to, try and see where is the tricky part. And the bill in Illinois is really very focused on patients, how you deal with patients, and actually making sure that they don't get hurt, and that the therapist or the mental health professional or the people who deal with them know where their limits are. It's not so much trying to regulate or to shut down solutions like EarKick. We can easily adapt. That's not the problem.
Yeah. On the flip side, the Trump administration is actually trying to remove the regulatory hurdles for tech to come in, especially AI. There's a lot of push on the AI side. So they specifically pinpointed that the states who are trying to regulate should not do it. So there is that battle also in the US.
Yeah.
Just to I think we are right now, this is so new that there will be kind of like the pendulum is going to go one way or another, and then there will be course correction.
Yes. There's going to be so much noise.
Yeah. So I think of it literally like this in my brain right now, that there is this pendulum and we don't know what is the right balance as of now, but there will be a ton of things that will happen, and then we'll land at somewhere where it should be in a balanced way.
Yes, absolutely. And again, if you want to disrupt something that's not working, obviously the mental health system is not working as it is globally. then there's going to be a lot of commotion. There's going to be a lot of going too far, not going far enough. There, unfortunately, also there will be, incidents that we don't know yet about. Maybe there will be more benefits and more dangers that we don't, the unknown unknowns, right? But there is no going back. And there is one thing that is 100% sure. Ignoring what is happening and thinking I have no part in this and I have no responsibility, whoever you are, is 100% wrong. Because it's going to affect humanity. It is affecting humanity. And the earlier and the more hands-on we can be about this, the better. You don't have to be an AI founder in mental health. Everyone has a role here. Everyone. If we think about the 50% of people being affected by mental health, at least 50, or already being heavily affected, then we all know someone or we're affected ourselves. We can all do our part. We can all share our opinion, our story, our experience. We can help make this less of a turbulence that creates unnecessarily struggle and pain. And so, yeah, I don't know how this is going to play out, but I know the only way is forward and through it, and doing it in a collaborative way where, all parties and everyone involved has to grab a seat at the table, really. I mean, nobody's going to invite you. You're going to have to grab your seat at the table and make your voice heard. I'm personally very excited about this current upheaval, I would say, because as someone who's been talking about it for years, finally, I feel like there is a discussion coming. And it's been taken seriously, thank God. And now we have to make the best out of it. You have to be part of it. You have to shape it. And we have to keep, in mind, what is this all for? We agree that we want to solve a problem. We agree that we want to create value. And by creating value, I mean something that has an outcome, not an endless discussion and then there is no outcome. Like really being focused on creating value and seeing progress. And if we all do that, this cannot go wrong.
Yeah. Before we end today's conversation, I do have this based on today's discussion. I guess one of the things, or maybe easier thing to implement from regulatory point of view, is to at least establish that all the LLMs or tech that's not actually specialized solutions for mental health, they should at least clearly state it. As soon as somebody's trying to interact, like that should be the first warning to the user that don't use this for these things. And that would be a start of it, I think. There's a lot of things.
That's already, I think that is already pretty much what is
Expected, but not, but it's like hidden behind the text, right? Like fine prints. So why are people still using OpenAI when like ChatGPT for these things? They should be, ideally, right? So
yeah. That's the literacy that we lack sometimes. And yeah, that should be very clear. And we should talk about this very clearly. What is a tool for and what is it not for?
Not for, yeah.
Yeah. Let me say one more thing. And that I was asked by the media why we call EarKick an AI therapist on a website. It was not an easy decision because we didn't intend to do that. The thing is that people who use EarKick started referring to it as AI therapist. We did focus groups, we did tests, we did so much to find out what people call it, what it is to them. And we just couldn't get it out of their heads. This is my AI therapist. Now, if your goal is as a company to impact as many lives as possible and help and reach as many people in need as possible, and they call you one way, what are you going to do? To be searchable, to be found by them. So we had to pivot to call ourselves or call EarKick in the outside communication AI therapist, the way people were calling us. But as soon as you come into the app, we make absolutely clear, very clear, in the very first seconds, what it is not, how you can use it, etc. And that's not an easy decision to make in the communication. But if you have the trade-off of, hey, you call yourself something so that people can find you rather than, being in a predatory environment, then that's the data-driven decision we had to take. Now, if we are forced to do it differently, and kind of on the website or whatever, we'll do it. But the intent has always been the same. Every life that we don't reach, every person in need that we don't reach in time, and in time I mean today, tomorrow, is a lost opportunity to help. So it's not as clear cut, oh, you say this, and then you do this, and then you make this disclaimer. If people can't find a perfect tool, if people can't find something that's good for them, guess where they're going to go?
Everywhere. Yeah. Or they will go nowhere, which is also a problem.
I don't know where they're good, but I'm just, so I just want to show it's complex. There's no straightforward, hey, you have to do it this and this and this way. We have to do something where we have the data to justify a decision. And then we have to test it and see whether we were right, and if it's paying into the vision, the goal, the mission or not. And that's a constant A/B testing, constant observing and following trends. And that's a big chunk of the work that we do.
But would it risk your, let's say, again, now if it starts, I don't know how the regulations change, legislation changes, now they go specifically for more similar things in other states, then you kind of would be forced to change it, right? Because then you don't want to cut, right?
But the good thing is, like we build for that. Again, we don't ask for any personal data. There is no registration on that part. We call ourselves on the website and on some of the communication AI therapists so that people find us. If we have to change it, we change it. But as long as we don't have to, we will not change it for the reasons I just gave you. The same applies to other things. If legislation moves into, oh, you have to change this, we can easily do it because the architecture we build our company on is very modular, and we can easily adapt. And when one of the values is radical privacy, then privacy is built in. It's part of the DNA. It's not something you have to layer on top. If we were always about protecting the safety and the trust of people, that's not going to change.
Yeah. Well, this is a good clarification at the end. Thanks for sharing it too. I'm sure I've had this thought too previously, but now I know that the market maturity is not there enough to search with something else. That's what they search for, right? Unless we reach to a level when people are sophisticated enough to look for different ways. That does not exist right now. So that's an awareness thing. Just like we are growing through this, maybe over time it will change. So it totally makes sense. If it doesn't get in the hands of the people where it should, then what's the point of building something like this, right? So that totally makes sense. And that clarification that you provided, I'm sure it will resonate with a lot of people. Well, once again, thanks for sharing your insight. This has been great. There's a lot happening, so I'm sure we'll get you back again for more updates in a few months. But the space is moving really fast, which is a good news. And like you said, like finally for the first time, there is real policy discussion around what is built, especially on the tech side, and that is already a good sign too. And I'm no surprise. I'm keeping tabs on how EarKick is growing, so that's always fascinating and good to see. Yeah, thanks for sharing your insight, Karin.
Thank you for asking all the right questions. See you soon.